Hello guys, welcome to my channel Toshniwal Learning. I hope you all are doing good. So today we are going to learn CSS selector, how to use CSS selector, how to write it, and this is one of the locators. Total we have 8 types of locators to find the element, and CSS selector is one of them, which is not quite famous, but the performance. If I compare with XPath, it's not quite famous. People generally don't use it, but the performance, if I talk about the performance, the performance of CSS selector is quite better than XPaths. Okay, so without wasting time, let's just start how to write the CSS selector. Okay, so I have taken a website named as redbus.com, which you have ideally used it at least a time in your life. So while writing the XPath, even if you are using an ID, how you will write it? You will write double slash at the rate ID inside a bracket at the rate ID equals to the value of ID, close it, right? But in CSS selector, if you want to use a ID, you just have to use hash keyword, okay? You just have to use hash keyword. And after using the hash keyword, you have to pass the value of the ID. My value of the ID over here is dest. Let's type it and I can see one of one. Okay, so this is how you will write CSS selector. Uh, you will write a CSS, not a selector. You will write a CSS for using it inside your script as in CSS selector. You will write this CSS by using an ID, using the hash keyword. Okay, so this is my CSS selector. I'll just try to write it. I'll just write it over here so that you can also ID. Okay, that means hash and value of ID. Also, you want to make it more stronger or more generic, you can pass the tag name at the starting. So I am passing the tag name as input. Input is a tag name, hash is a keyword, and destination is just the value. Okay, use hash. Okay, you have to use hash. Now this is for ID. If you want to write it for class, what you need to do, you need to use as dot like hash, you need to use dot and the value of class name. See, one of one I can see. Okay, one of one. Obviously, this is a error message class name because we can't see any error message which is hidden over here, but it is there in the DOM. I can see one of one. Okay, so to write the class, you need to use dot. Okay, dot class name. Okay, and same thing you can pass it as HTML tag dot class name. Okay, also if you could see over here, I can see a different, okay, two classes, right? Icon double arrow is one class and icon is another class, which is defined in a single span tag for the class. So if there are multiple classes, okay, that also you can define it using dot. Obviously it is not visible because we are using a two class. So to make it as a two classes used, we have to use two dots, dot class 1 dot class 2. Yeah, so C1 and C2 I can see over here. So if you want to use two classes, you have to write C1 dot C2 dot C3. Here also you have to use dot. Okay, so dot C1 dot C2 dot C3 and like this dot to C nth. Okay, you can use multiple classes in your CSS. Okay, you just have to define, you have to just separate those two classes with the help of a dot. Okay, so I have used two. Okay, why developer use two classes? Obviously because one class will be common, which will be one class name will be common, which will be used as a CSS across all the coding part wherever they are defining, and other classes will be particular to that tag itself. Okay, so that's why multiple classes are used. Now, for example, let's come over here. So I have an ID. So if I want to write XPath of this part, how you will write it? You will write it double slash section, okay, at the rate ID equals to value of the ID and close it, right? So this is how you write the XPath. But if you want to write the CSS in such methods, how you will write it? You will simply type section, that means in tag name, bracket ID equals to ID value and close it. Okay, no double slashes are required, no at the rate is required, no quotes are required, single quote. Only the HTML tag, the ID, and the value. If you want to go inside in the XPath, how you will go inside? We will go inside with a single slash, but in CSS you have to use greater than, greater than div. I am inside the div, greater than another div. Okay, I'll use, okay, so you have to use greater than for going inside. Okay, now okay, so it will be HTML tag attribute equals to value and then greater than HTML tag and then again the forward, sorry, not forward, the greater than tag. Okay, so this is how you write CSS in terms of XPath, how you write it. Okay, very simple, quite easier then, because you don't have to use the slash and at the rate symbols, right? Now coming back over here, let's do something more. Okay, let's take this search button. So suppose in your if we see in many of the projects or many of the interviews, right, that they will ask that suppose you have an ID or you have any attribute, okay, that attribute is something like the starting part is same, but the ending it is different. Like test will be common. Whenever the page gets loaded, it will be random thing like test 1 2 3. Then again, if a page is loaded or anything is done, anything it has been refreshed, that time the value, the attribute value will be test 456. The next time it will be text test 798. So the end value is getting changed, but initials are okay. So in an interview they ask that how you will do it. So in terms of XPath, you will say that okay, we can use starts with function, okay, ends with function. So again, if they ask that how you will use it in a CSS selector, so CSS also give you an very good way of using in as a starts with function, okay, that it is starting with, and you don't need to write anything, you just need to use a symbol. That symbol is nothing but a cap 661, okay, cap. So how to write it? Suppose there is a search, right? So I want to find it something which starts with search. So how you will write it in terms of XPath? We will just write the HTML tag, right? And then ID. We are using ID, right? And then cap, as I'll write it cap equals to search. How it is? This one is starting with search button, right? So button is an HTML tag, ID, cap is used something which starts with, okay, something which starts with. So cap is used as starts with. And what to starts with? Search. So something which is starting with search, it will, if it will definitely catch it. Okay. So how to write it? Starts. button. That means HTML tag attribute cap equals to value. That's it. Use cap. Okay. And if you want to end, suppose they say that the last one is same, but the initial will be changed. So you have to use dollar. Okay. See, it is not finding out because it is not ending with search. Okay. But what it is ending with? It is ending with button, btn, right? So dollar is used to write something which ends with. Okay. Same, I will copy this. I will just uh, change the value as dollar and use dollar. Dollar for ends with, cap for starts with. And if something that contains the that word contains, so in XPath you will what you will write the contents or partial link text, something you will use it, right? So if for contains you just have to use a star. Okay. See, for cap it is not visible because cap is just the starting part. Only dollar will be visible. But if I use a star, it will definitely find it. Star is something which is having. If there is a if something comes that okay, everything is the initials also is changing and last also changing, but there is a word in between, okay, which is known as BTWN. That is not changing. But initials and the last part is always changing whenever a page gets loaded. So at that time, this star will be very useful. So that means same thing I will copy it, only there is a change in the special character, right? Okay, so this is about starts with, ends with. Now let's just quickly revise all those things. To select, to use an ID in your CSS, you have to use hash. To use class, you have to use dot, and if there are multiple classes, you have to separate them using a dot. Dot class 1, dot class 2, dot class 3. Okay, in terms of writing the CSS, in terms of XPath, how you would write the XPath, you just have to use a HTML tag, then the attribute in the inside the bracket, attribute equals to attribute value, and you have to use greater than sign to navigate to the next, to navigate to just inside of that tag. Okay, for starting, for taking the text as a starting, so here I have used ID. You could be having anything, any attribute. It could be ID, class, for, type, right? So that you can as per your application you can define it. Okay, so for starts it will we'll be using a cap, for ends we will be using a dollar, and for contains, which contains everything like star, for contains and anything we'll be using a star. So in an interview something asks that how in CSS you will write if something is only the starting value is same, the ending is changing for attribute value, you know. Yes, I you can use a cap if something ending is always same for the attribute value but starting is getting changed. I know because I can use dollar, but both are changing. Starting and ending both are changing, but in between text is always same. At that time you can use a star. Okay, you can take a screenshot of this if you want. Now let's go to something very important part is this. Okay, so I am here over here. I have a same. Okay. Hmm. Okay, so I am over here. I am having a list of undefined list. I am having a list of elements I am having. Okay, so if in an interview someone asks that suppose a page is loading, but there are, I can see a four elements are there. Okay, a page is loading every time, and I always want to select the first element. Okay, I always want to select the first element. Okay, so at that time, what you will do? You will write an XPath, right? You will write an XPath and you will make it as li of 0, li of 2, li of 3, li of 4. That you can do it, right? But in XPath, you can make it as very nicely. If you want to select the first element or last element, you can write the, not in the XPath, I'm sorry, in the CSS part. You can use something as first of type and last of type. Okay, so it's not about a four values. So it could be, suppose something comes up that boss, the elements which are coming, it could be sometimes 5, it could sometimes be 10, it could sometimes be 15. I am not sure. Every time the page loaded, uh, the count of the element changes, right? So at that time, the last element, how you will find it, you will never know, right? You can find the first element always. 0, you can pass it, right? L1, 1, you can pass it 1. But in terms of XPath, but in CSS, you will not know it. So in CSS, if you want to select the first value always, you just need to use first of type. Okay. So for example, I am here. I'll take this as main header. How to use ID in your CSS? Okay, one of one. Then I want to go inside the NAV. Then I want to go inside the UL. Then I want to go inside my li. Okay, inside my li. Then I have to use first of type. Okay, what I'm using li colon first of type. That means it will always select the first value. Okay, it will always select the first value. How to use it? Use colon first of type. If you want to use last value, then you have to pass it as last of type. Okay, you have to use last of type. So if someone asks you in an interview how you'll do it, you have to select the first always or the last always. So you can tell that using the CSS I can use it. I just have to give a colon and then last of type or first of type. Okay. And if you want to select the nth number, the number, any number you want to select. Okay, any number you want to select. So you have to give nth of type and you have to give inside the value 2, 1, 3, 4 inside a bracket. Okay, curved bracket, you have to give nth of type and then the value. Okay, you can give any value over here. So this is very nicely this is a very nice way. I really like this part of CSS. Okay, you can use anything. So suppose I am over here, right? First of type. The another thing I want to tell you is how to go to the sibling. Just the sibling, the next sibling. Okay, you have to use, suppose I am here right now, right? I am here on the first of element of li, but I want to go over here on the second. Okay. In an interview, someone tell me that, okay, I ask you a question. That these a list of elements are getting displayed, but it's not fixed. That it's not fixed that when it will come. Hmm? It is never fixed that there will be two, three, four, five, six. Okay, so you have to always use the second one or third one or something. So to go to the just second sibling, you have to use plus and li. Okay, plus li. You have to give only a plus keyword and followed by the HTML tag to go to just next sibling. Just to go to the just next sibling, you have to use a plus keyword. I'm not sure this will work. Okay, this will also work. You have to keep on giving plus 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 li plus li plus li. So going to the next sibling, you have to use it plus. Okay, I'm not sure about the minus part. Will it also work? No, it won't work. Okay, so only plus will give going backwards. It won't work. Only coming downwards towards just next sibling, you have to use a plus keyword. Okay, so that's all about the CSS part, CSS selector, how you will use it. Driver dot find element by dot CSS selector inside bracket. You have to give this values, anything you have to give. Okay, quite easy right now, I feel. At least you can start it or using start in basic things you can use it in your page object model if there are 10 elements. So at least try to use two web elements as a CSS selector so that you will start loving it and taking the hands-on on it. Okay, great. Please do like and subscribe my channel. You can ask your doubts inside the comment section also. Thank you.